Hey, everybody, it's time for a fantasy draft of buying and selling Jets player stock heading into training camp. This is going to be juicy. Let's get into it. Zoinks! It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans. Field Yates, baby. Field Gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show. Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor Gosh darn Sycamore, baby. For me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas. Hey everybody, my name is Paul Esden Jr., aka Boy Green. Yes, I'm not my home studio. I'm actually at the radio station where I do my day job. And yes, some afternoon action. The people have been begging for it, and it happens to work out this way. And we'll be doing this a little bit through the summer. Some afternoon live streams, of course, with me, Boy Green, and my partner in crime, the Buffalo Jet fan, gracing us with his presence. It feels weird on a Wednesday afternoon, but nonetheless, I'm excited for it. What's up, Buffalo?
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever hung out in the daytime.
No, we haven't. We're night owls. We're club people. We're normally not a middle of the day.
It's like those friends in college where you just hang out when you're kind of having some beverages, and then you hang out sober, and we're like, man, I hope I still like this guy.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Because I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite sold if I am, but we'll figure that out as we go through this. And I think Buffalo painted it beautifully last week on the show, and we'll do it for this week and some future weeks. We've talked Dalvin Cook. We've talked Hard Knocks. And when there are actual updates about any of those things, we're going to be talking about them. But here is today's concept. And you see it in the theme of the video, but I'll explain it. We were doing a fantasy draft between myself and Buffalo. It'll be a snake draft. I'll explain that in a second. Of buying and selling not draft stock, but buying or selling player stock heading into training camp. First, we're going to do a mini buy thing here where we each will end up with 5 players of players we believe in. We're buying the stock. We think they're going to be studs. We think they're going to be superstars. We'll explain as we go through this little mini fantasy draft. And then we'll do a separate one in just a few minutes of selling players we don't believe in for whatever reason. We'll explain why. And we'll go through that entire shish kebab. We cannot grab the same player, which adds a little bit to the excitement of this exercise. And it's cool to talk about other things beyond Dalvin Cook and Hard Knocks and things of that nature. So without further ado, Buffalo, whatever we do in this first draft, we'll do the opposite. For instance, if you get the first overall pick and buy, I'll get the first overall pick and sell, and it's a snake draft. So you go first, I go back-to-back, then you, or whichever way we end up starting this thing. Which would you prefer? Do you want to go first overall and buy, or first overall and sell a little bit later?
I will defer to the second half, and I will take the first overall and sell.
It's a very NFL-ish of you. So I get the number one on the buy, which is great, by the way, because I think, I guess we'll see as we progress through this exercise. I will say my number one here, I think, is either your 1A or 1B. We didn't really talk about who we'd potentially be going after, but I'm going after Garrett Wilson. I am buying Garrett Wilson, and I will tell you, hopefully I'm not screaming this to any people that are in any of my fantasy football leagues. I'm taking Garrett freaking Wilson, baby. I don't care where I am in the draft. I'm taking this guy. I just think he's going to be a superstar. He was the offensive rookie of the year, the first offensive rookie of the year in Jets history, and you've added Aaron friggin' Rodgers? Sign me the hell up, baby. Number one overall pick. I am buying. I am investing stock into Garrett Wilson. He's my number one buy, and leads you to, and I'll be keeping track, of course, of our fantasy drafts, and we'll tweet out some of those results and social media them. You have back-to-back picks here, Buffalo.
All right, so I'm gonna buy Carl Lawson stock coming off the second year, coming off of the Achilles. I listened to, there was a really good interview that Jeff Ulbrich did with Eric Allen that's on the New York Jets website right now, and he just talked about how when you tear your Achilles, you're supposed to be a shell of yourself. And we found out later, I think when the season was over, per Connor Hughes, that Carl Lawson actually had a setback, and they weren't sure that he was going to be, they thought he might have started on the PUP list. He doesn't even miss, he's ready for camp. He doesn't miss a practice. He doesn't miss a game. So I don't think he will get 10 sacks for the first time in his career, like he predicts, and that should be his goal, of course. But I do think the pressure rate and the hits are going to be more reminiscent of the 2020 season that got him this Jets contract with the Bengals. And last year, he pretty much just used the bull rush. It was just power, which he's a strong dude, so he just powered his way into 7 sacks. But we don't really see the rips and the spins and the the elusiveness, right? That we saw with Cincinnati. I think that's going to come back, and I think he is going to be a much more impactful player in 2023.
Wow, I just got to say, Carl Lawson was on my list. I did not anticipate Buffalo pushing his chips to the middle of the table going Carl Lawson, but I love it. I also saw that interview with Eric Allen. They're releasing these episodes. They obviously did a bunch of recording before the break of the Official Jets podcast, and a Brant Boyer one just dropped on July 4th. I love watching those. There's so much insight and behind the scenes on those, so I love it. All right, who's your second pick here? You get back-to-back here in the snake draft.
So I thought about mixing up the positions, but I'm gonna follow my big board in true Joe Douglas fashion. And my second guy is in the same position group, and that's Jermaine Johnson. I'm buying Jermaine Johnson stock as well. I think, well, number one, him and Carl Lawson both apparently spent the offseason in that machine that Captain America went into, and he came out like super swole. These dudes look absolutely incredible. And Jermaine, on a snap per snap basis last year, he was very efficient for a rookie edge rusher. If you look at the nerd stats like pass rush win rate, and he was in the 94th percentile and things like run stops per snap. So he was already a grown man against the run. I don't see Jermaine Johnson as a player that has a 12 plus sack ceiling personally. I think Will McDonald might. I think he's going to be a guy that lives in that 7 to 8 sack range. Maybe pops 1 year, gets 11, makes a Pro Bowl. But even that, when's the last time we had an edge that was really good against the run and can get you 8 sacks a year on a rookie contract? It's been a minute. So I don't know. Again, it's hard to predict stats when you don't know how they're going to rotate, but I think Jermaine Johnson is going to be a really high impact player. And I think it's going to force their hand to kick JFM inside even more, just to get the best players in the field, because he's one of them.
Well, if you're just going to hand him to me, then I will take him. Give me Aaron gosh darn Rodgers, baby. And I still can't believe we have to just pinch ourselves with the fact that Aaron Rodgers is actually on this team. And of course I'm taking Aaron Rodgers. We should probably be talking about players that normally don't get a lot of love. Maybe that should be a theme here, but I'm taking Aaron gosh darn Rodgers.
I thought that was a given.
Maybe the biggest steal in history. That's beautiful. Let me put that immediately on the list. I am excited, though. There was this funny bit. The Jets are releasing a lot of content on their YouTube channel and their Jets official website. Ethan Greenberg, another one of the Jets team reporters, he's actually a Syracuse alum. He brought up to Eric Allen, should the floor for Aaron Rodgers be the 2 single season records for the Jets, which is 4,007 yards, of course, Joe Namath, and 31 touchdowns, which unfortunately is Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015. He asked Eric Allen, should that be the floor for Aaron Rodgers, or is that too lofty? And Eric Allen laughed. He went, too lofty. It's Aaron gosh darn Rodgers. And I was like, okay, baby, you damn right. So I got to go Rodgers there. But now I get a back-to-back pick here. And I just have to make sure you don't take my guy. If you're following your big board and going with these pass rushers left to right, I got to go Michael Clemens, baby. I love Michael Clemens. I love MC. He bulked up, which, to your point, that swole machine's getting a lot of work at one Jets drive. Michael Clemens was scary already, and then he added 20-plus pounds. The Jets official roster sheet had him listed at 270. There's been talk from Jeff Ulbrich they'd be in the 290. I heard another number. They could be up to 297, and I'm just like, wow, that is bulk. That is great, and I can't wait to see him get on the field more. The room is deep. There's no you already took 2 guys from that defensive line room. I just think Michael Clemens is going to be a freak. I don't know if that guarantees 10 sacks. Everyone can't have 10 sacks. I see all these comments in here of people getting 10 sacks and all this other stuff. I don't know if we quite get there, but I just think he's going to be a nasty monster. He's going to be in the conversation. I think at 6+ sacks, I think he's going to have that kind of impact. So I got to go Michael Clemens here with the back-to-back pick. Got to go MC, baby. Yeah.
Right. And this is like relative to the kind of baseline expectations, right? So obviously, guys like Sauce Gardner, Quinn Williams, right? Those would be guys that we're all buying. I'll go Jeremy Ruckert. I'm going to buy in some Jeremy Ruckert.
Damn it,
stock.
you bastard.
Who I'll be honest, at the time, it was the only pick of that entire draft where I kind of was like, man, I wish we'd have got one of those linebackers or safeties.
Sure.
But again, you take a good player, it's always going to age well. And I think that CJ Uzama will get the benefit of the doubt as that number 2 blocking tight end, but I do hope that Rucker kind of usurps him in that role. And as the blocking tight end and a red zone threat, and nothing crazy, but I could see maybe he gets 20, 25 catches, a couple of touchdowns, and works himself out a niche as a blocker, and then really sets himself up to be, him and Conklin 1A, 1B heading into 2024. And then at the very least, again, getting in that quasi H-back fullback role if they don't want to put him fully ahead of Uzama as a tight end. But I just think Uzama's good as a blocker and he's okay as a pass catcher. But I think Jeremy Ruckert has the potential, has a higher ceiling in both areas than Uzama. And that's not anti-Uzama. That's just pro Jeremy Ruckert. So yeah, he'll be my someone I'm buying stock in.
Oh, that's a great one. I had Jeremy Ruckert on the list, but again, it's also a level of strategy. Like, who are you going to take? Who are some guys I like?
Right.
But I think it'd slip a little bit on the board here. But nonetheless, you got another back-to-back pick here. Who's your next pick?
Okay. I am buying Mecole Hardman. I'm buying Mecole Hardman.
Wow. Okay.
And I'm not buying Mecole Hardman in terms of he's going to be. I just think there was that. When he was signed, it was like the Jets are going to expand his route tree and he's going to do all these different things that he wasn't doing before. It's like, okay, well, probably Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes got the most out of an offensive weapon, I'd probably say, than anybody else could. But I'm just saying the player that he was in 2021, where he had, 700 yards and was a dynamite punt returner, kick returner, the touchdowns and special teams. And I think there's untapped potential for him in some of those design touches. He was really, really good. Almost 7 yards per touch when he gets the ball behind the line of scrimmage going forward. I think the reason why they shied away from that is, one, because if you can have Patrick Mahomes sort of Travis Kelce, why wouldn't you just do that? And two, he'd have a little bit of fumbling problem, but for the contract, I love Mecole Hardman. And I think that having dynamic elite speed on the field does things to stress a defense that don't necessarily show up in the stat sheet. So he's one of my guys for sure.
Let me ask you real quick. Do you think he is I did an article about this week. Do you, because Braxton Berrios is gone. He was the leader both in kickoff attempts, the next kick return attempts, the next closest was Ty Johnson with 3. And then punt returner. This is a crazy stat. I didn't even realize this in the moment. Braxton Berrios was the only Jets player that received a punt last year. No one else registered on the scale, which is kind of wild. So obviously that gets removed from the table. So someone has to step up. Is Mecole Hardman both? Is he just kickoff or punt? Because when he first came into the league, he was a second-team All-Pro as a kick returner, or as a return man, rather, and then also as a Pro Bowl nominated guy. But he didn't really do it last year with the Chiefs. Maybe some of that's injury, some of that someone else stepped up to the plate. But I thought that was kind of fascinating. Are you buying stock there as he's the return man, or do you not see him in that light?
I think he's the favorite right now. I think it kind of depends on who gets that 6 wide receiver spot. Somebody like Xavier Gibson, who's has a really good return resume in college. Bam Knight's done it before, but he doesn't really give that explosiveness. As a punt returner, I mean, Randall Cobb can give you the old Jeremy Curley fair catch, and I won't fumble it, right? Which is valuable if you're winning, sure. But I would lean Hardman there, especially because I don't think he'll be a starting wide receiver per se. I don't think he'll be one of the top 3 in 11 personnel. So maybe you can afford for him to play that role. Where in Kansas City, actually, crazy as it sounds, our wide receiver room is actually deeper and better than the Chiefs was last year. Obviously, they have Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Travis Kelce and all that. So maybe they wanted to preserve Mecole because he was, playing higher on the depth chart as a receiver. Or if the Jets, if he's their wide receiver 4, maybe they can afford to have him do that. So I'd put him as his job to kind of lose as that returner heading into camp.
Gosh, I got 4 players on my list here, so I'm going to go back to back and round out my 5 that you're drafted, and then you'll finish us off with the final pick. I got 4 guys on my list that I want here, so that's both a good and bad problem, I suppose. I got to go with this guy because oh boy, this is tough. Okay, I'll go with him. I got to go Laken Tomlinson. There's just no friggin' way that last year was anything more than an anomaly. It has to be. He played the same position he played in San Francisco. He was in the same scheme, and he just didn't have the magical powers. He just wasn't that guy. And not only was he not that guy, it's not like he went from Pro Bowl to average. He went like Pro Bowl to below average. It's just stunning. I was reading some of Michael Nania's numbers, and I was going back through a lot of the stuff from last season, and people calling him a shell of himself. And you look through analytics, you look through tape, and it's stunning. To me, I think there has to be, and when we're talking stock, Like I'm buying it at the lowest possible denominator here for Lakin, but I think I'm going to get this great return on investment because I think he's going to bounce back. First off, just naturally speaking, I don't think he's going to be as bad as he was last year. And also, if you think about the players around him, if people are firing a healthy Dwayne Brown at left tackle, depending on who wins the center battle, whether it's Connor or a Tippmann, I really think that Lakin's going to have a huge bounce back. So I have to go there. I have to put him on the list. I think Lakin's going to be huge for the Jets this year.
Yeah, he really can't be any worse. And I heard, there's a whole thing of, well, he had Trent Williams next to him. That is such bullcrap. You're blocking the individual human being in front of you, and he couldn't do it last year. And also, when Trent Williams was injured in San Francisco, he didn't forget how to play. So I don't know what it was, but it can't just be he was a Trent Williams merchant. I think it matters, but that doesn't explain the whole thing. So he has to be better. That is, and obviously the Jets think he's going to be because they restructured. So he's going to be here probably for 2 more years. If you look at the way his contract is now written. All right, so this is my last.
Well, let me squeeze.
You got one more. Yeah, you got one more.
Yeah. Easy there, pal. Rein it in, draft board man. And
I'm like Bill Belichick. I'm coming up to snipe your guy.
I saw that. That's very nice. Maybe you will. I will say this is a guy that I haven't had on my list previously. We dropped a video on him earlier. I'm somewhat surprised that he's even going to make it on my list. Here's my final pick, Jamien Sherwood. Now there's still time. We're doing this live stream in front of all you people on July 5th. So last time Quan Alexander signed, technically it was late July, but the contract wasn't official, I believe, till August 2nd. So there's still time for there to be this massive Quan Alexander signing. And then all of what I'm about to say is kaput outside of a rash of injuries to linebackers. But I don't know if you saw the viral clip of Jamien Sherwood basically saying, yeah, I'm not great. I'm at the bottom of the pile. And some people said, what a loser. That's why the Jets need to go get Quan. But I actually really like the humility. I really like the brutal, rare honesty we don't see from NFL players that are always macho. Hey, I'm the best of the best. Like he said, nah, I'm not the best of the best, but I'll tell you this. And I love this line. We'll have to slap that on a t-shirt. A wolf is always hungrier that's climbing the mountain than the wolf that's on top of the mountain. And I just kind of thought about that and said, wow, man, this guy is going after it. There's a level of humility there. We'll see. He played 25 snaps, 2% of the defensive snaps last year. So it's impossible to know what he is or isn't. But as a guy, again, another guy we're buying here, and I saw he was trending in the chat with a lot of people bringing up Jamien. So I had him on the board. I mean, that's just another possibility here of a guy that right now, if they don't sign Quan, he's the projected 3rd starter. But even more important than that, because that player only plays about 50% of the snaps, it's about the insurance. If CJ or Quincy goes down, the next guy up right now is Jamien Sherwood. So I have to push the chips in on that young man.
All right. Jamien Sherwood is the final buy. I think we might but I don't think I'm looking to see if there's any of my sellers that you bought. I think there's one overlap there that we'll get to in a second. So that'll be juicy, as you would say. All right, my final buy is Tony Adams. I'm buying Tony Adams. And again, relative to expectations, I'm not saying he's going to be Ed Reed, but I believe that Tony Adams possesses really the only proverbial free safety skill set on this Jets roster. I think that Amos and Whitehead will be the presumptive starters, but I think if one of them slips, particularly, Amos, who, if he bounces back to 2021 form, we got to steal. If he looks like last year, he'll be passable. If he takes another step of regression, he's going to be basically unplayable. So could Tony Adams find himself starting down the stretch? I think it's entirely possible. I think also he might have a role as a backup safety and backup nickel corner if Javelin Goodyear doesn't make the team, because Adams played nickel corner quite a bit at Iowa. So it's really just a guy that I love. And I think that hopefully Amos and Whitehead both work out and are healthy all year. But then I'm still doubling down on Tony Adams stock for 2024. And again, as an undrafted free agent, even if he could eventually be an average starter for you, I think that's a huge win. So I am buying the stock of Tony Adams.
And apparently people are like just watching your YouTube channel so much. We had this Charlie comment from earlier who said that you were taking Tony Adams guaranteed earlier in the show before you even took him.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, he just knew. So I had to go search and bring this up here from Charlie. He just knew it was coming. I would say this is a fascinating just side piece real quick, Buffalo. I hadn't thought about this till someone brought it up. I don't know how it was for you, so you be honest here, okay? So when Tony Adams made the team last year, I was like, whoa. Did not see that coming whatsoever. And then we got the comment from Saul after, like the post 53 like presser, and he talked about like this hidden gem, and they didn't really talk about him through much of camp or preseason. He wasn't asked questions about him. He slipped under the radar. So first off, let's just go there before I get to my point. Was it surprising to you when Tony Adams initially made the roster last year?
No, but it was surprising he made it over Jason Pinnock. I thought he would have made it over Will Parks or somebody else. So I didn't see the Pinnock pick cut coming. But I was a Tony Adams truther early on because I have no life. So I watched like 600 of his reps at Iowa, and I was like, oh my goodness. And people always ask me, why do you and Joe Blewett always agree? I'm like, because we watch the games. When you watch the games, when you're using the same source of information, your opinions are going to overlap much more. And Tony Adams is that dude. I think if he didn't blow out his knee, he would have been drafted for sure. So yeah, no, I was not surprised that he made the team, but I was surprised that they cut Jason Pinnock, who, let's be honest, Jason Pinnock still, I think, was better than a few of the safeties that were on our roster last year. He was, starting games, playoff games for the Giants. Yeah. So not the end of the world, but I do think that was a little bit of a mistake to cut Jason Pinnock.
Yeah, so real quick, this random side detour. So we've been beating this Hard Knocks thing to death. And again, when there's actually news, we'll talk about it. But in this particular case, someone brought up that saying, hey, one of the reasons you may not want Hard Knocks is because maybe a Tony Adams may not have made it. Like, obviously he made the final 53, so the Jets have their own decisions to make. But like the Tony Adams of the world, if you would have tried to sneak that guy into the practice squad, if you have this Hard Knock show every week showing clips of Tony Adams lighting it up in footage we normally wouldn't have seen, maybe some of those under the radar guys that Saleh tries to hide, like even when he did a presser back in May, they said, who is someone that stood out? He says, well, I don't want to give out that trade secrets to the world. We'll kind of keep that close to the vet. He was saying that in friggin' May. So like maybe there is a little bit of credence. I hadn't thought about that in the Hard Knocks decision, that maybe some of these players that normally would slip under the radar on the Jets can kind of have these diamonds in the rough. They will be more so in the spotlight, which could be a potential detractor to Hard Knocks. Do you give that any credence or anything?
It's an interesting thought. I think Bonesy brought it up in my stream the other day. I just I don't know if that's how NFL GMs are making their personnel decisions, to be honest. I think like the clips from HBO Hard Knocks, I don't see that. I think that that's not the kind of information that teams go off of when making personnel decisions, personally.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I don't know if GMs are camping out on Tuesday nights. Oh, get the popcorn, honey. The Jets are on Hard Knocks. Maybe, because they're going to be entertaining as hell. But yeah, perhaps not when we get to that point. So, okay, let's review the fantasy drafts real quick, and then we'll get into the cell. Also answer some questions. So, Buffalo, here is your group of buyers. Okay, here's your top 5 in order, in draft order. You had Carl Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, Jeremy Ruckert, Mecole Hardman, and Tony Adams, and the seating on that is 2, 3, 6, 7, 10 snake draft. Was that the 5 basically you wanted to come away with? Did I snipe anyone from you?
No, well, I mean, yeah, Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers, I feel like it could be on everybody's list, but you didn't get any of my, you didn't take any of my dark horses. No.
Okay, excellent. And then to share mine, Garrett Wilson, number 1. Again, I just think he's going to be a stud. So number 1 overall pick was Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers 4, Michael Clemens 5, Laken Tomlinson 8, Jamian Sherwood 9. Those are our buys. We'll also have that out on social media. Guys, feel free to react to the list. Feel free to throw that into the comment section. Now we're going to go immediately. Let's flip it to the other side. We are now selling. Again, the theme of this episode, I'm Boy Green.
This is less fun.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this one's painful. I'm going to be honest. When I was getting the buys, I put like 12. I got the full draft list here.
A lot easier.
12, 13, 14, 15. I'm like, okay, yeah, these are guys I'm buying. These are guys I believe in. Now these are the guys on the other side of the sell list. So you're like, ooh, caution. Bad. This is also bad for us, Buffalo, because if anything were wrong here on the sell, we
will be crucified.
There's no doubt about it. So this one is where a lot of this is going to come, and I fully understand that. So again, this is what we're doing. We're selling player stock, players we don't believe in, and it's going to start with the players we most don't believe in. We are the most. We're like, oh boy, watch out, caution tape. Those will be at the top, and then we'll work our way down from there. So. Buffalo, you deferred, thank goodness, and now you get to pick the number 1 overall most selling disappointing.
Let's talk about these bums on our team.
All right, so you have the number 1 pick, pal.
All right, so I am selling Denzel Mims. I think that this is the year that the rubber kind of meets the road. Now, to be fair, I wasn't in favor of trading him for nothing the past 2 off seasons because I'm like, look, the small chance that he could still break out is worth more to me than like a 6th-round pick or whatever. But I think this is finally the offseason where it's kind of just, it is what it is. I think that the Jets, it's not even guaranteed that they're going to dress 6 wide receivers. I don't think he's even above Randall Cobb as the 5, especially because Randall Cobb has known Aaron Rodgers for 10 years and Denzel Mims, I don't even know if he's met him because he wasn't at voluntaries. And I think that if Mims is not traded, which he probably still prefers to be, I think he will ask for his release. So I think they're going to showcase him in some preseason games and then trade him. I still think he can catch on as a backup wide receiver somewhere, maybe as a wide receiver 4 for a team that can come in and give them some blocking and stuff and, niche out an 8-year career where he makes $25 million. We should all be so, put me on that sell list, please. And thank you. So, but I think there's only so many excuses you can make, this is his 3rd offensive staff. It's Aaron Rodgers in the building. If he can't make his mark here, I'm just telling Denzel Mims, I think they're going to give the 6th spot to one of these UDFAs that can contribute more on special teams, and Mims will probably not be on the team.
Yeah, he was high on my board. I'm sorry, Denzel Mims. That's not the high on the board you want to be. But let me ask you this. You kind of mentioned it on the back end of your answer. Do you believe, I don't know if we quite want to go to Jets regret, but that he goes on to have a very respectable career? Maybe he doesn't live up to the 2nd-round billing, but he has a really nice career where he does something for someone else that he never did here. What are the chances of that happening, do you think?
Yeah, like I said, I think the ceiling is kind of like a wide receiver 4 that hang. I think the idea of him being a wide receiver 2 in a good offense, I just don't see that anymore. So I don't think we'll have like the Frankie Louvu kind of regret. But he's not going to the CFL. Like I think he's gonna stick around in the league to some capacity. Just probably not with the Jets.
All right, I'm going to go to this one. This guy was very high on my board. I'm just going to get right into it. Michael Carter, the running back. I don't see it, people. And I see there are Michael Carter stands out there, which is great. And he recently unblocked me on Twitter. So welcome back, Michael Carter, apparently, which I'm about to immediately be blocked again after this. But, the fact of the matter is, last year to me is unexplainable. Some people can point to, and you and Joe Blue could point to the offensive line tape at the end of the year and saying, hey, that's why the running back struggled. And maybe that's a legitimate case, but I just feel like the yards per carry, the eye in the sky don't lie. And that's a brutal statistic for a running back that it's just hard to overlook. So I think the hands were inconsistent. He was dropping balls even in his rookie year where he was showing pops, the inconsistency in hands, the yards per carry, the lack of juice. He doesn't have, when you're a smaller back, what you need to have is like elite game-changing speed. Like, oh, he's small, but look at that. But he can't run away from anybody. So when I start looking at the list, he could be a guy that, quite frankly, gets traded. If the Jets get Dalvin Cook, as I project, I could see them flipping Michael Carter to somebody. Maybe he sticks around, maybe he doesn't, but I just am completely selling that stock.
I disagree on that one a little bit. Now, I don't disagree that he had a bad year last year. Even factoring in the offensive line play, he was a different player than his rookie year. The Jets didn't have a great offensive line in 2021, and he was phenomenal. But I would rather, and I do think there is a chance that he does get traded. I don't think he'd be cut. I think somebody would cough up a 6th and 7th pick for him.
Yeah, I don't see him getting cut.
I would rather take the chance that he looks like his rookie self. I value that more than a 2024 like 6th-round pick. So I hope he stays. And if we don't sign Dalvin Cook, whatever, and I'm looking at who's running back 2. Okay, Michael Carter, Izzy Abanikanda, and Bam Knight. I know Izzy's a Hall of Famer because he's a rookie Jet, so he's in the new Jet Hall of Fame immediately. I actually do like Izzy, but I mean, we kind of do that. Every player who's new and unproven is going to be freaking amazing, but at the end of the day, we don't know. And Michael Carter, I have a whole year of him being a really good football player, and I don't have that with Bam Knight and Izzy. So I do hope there's a little bit of a bounce back there. I know he hurt his ankle, and he just wasn't the same. And then it seemed like he lost confidence. He was just not decisive in running. There was the huge fumble, which kind of was the icing on the cake. But also with the new system, I think that Nathaniel Hackett runs a lot more inside zone and split zone than outside zone and stretch. So I think that's going to be more suitable to Michael Carter's skill set. When they run those outside zones, Brees is a gazelle. Brees can get to the corner like that. Michael Carter's got like little Paul Boy Green legs. He's got like his he can't quite get there. So I think his there's just like 5'8" slander going on live on the channel. But I do think there'll be a bounce back to some extent. I don't know. It's kind of like Lakin. Like, did you just forget how to play football? So I think that's our first strong disagree there. I don't know if I'd put him on my buy list, but I'd say push. Just wait and see on Michael Carter.
Okay, well, that was my pick. So screw you, pal. I can pick whoever the hell I want. But no, again, maybe I would, and I want to make this clear at the beginning of this segment because it's almost like when we come out of, yeah, exactly. It's like how we come out of Senior Bowl. At the Senior Bowl, a common thing is, all right, who are the winners and the losers? Who are these losers that blew their opportunity? Like I know some members of the Senior Bowl staff that like hate when they see articles out there that are like slamming quote unquote losers. You know, I get that super disappointing from that perspective, but. And this is a difficult thing to do. And I want all these guys to prove me wrong. I want all these guys to be great if I can, but obviously more times than not, normally people aren't. So Here's another one I'm going to go to. And I hate this. I've had this guy on my show this offseason and he will never come on again after I say this, but I don't even think it's his fault. Bryce Huff. And here's why I'm selling it. If the Jets made him a healthy scratch for 3 games last year, if they only played him in 20% of the defensive snaps and they added a first-round pass rusher, how can I continue to sell myself and talk to myself in the mirror and slap myself around? No, they're going to fix it this time. No, they're definitely going to play.
It's like Jim Carrey and Liar Liar in the bathroom.
Yeah, that's exactly the scene that I'm talking. There's no way. Like as a Jet fan, as we're like hemming and hawing here, and you can feel free to share your take as we do after all these picks. Like I want Bryce Huff to be utilized in this elite sub-package pass rusher, the number 1 pass rush win rate, and all this other jazz. Like he looks great, but the Jets didn't use him. So for some reason, they are not seeing what we're seeing. And again, adding a first-round pass rusher, Will McDonald, unless he is the most raw dude in history and doesn't find his way on the field, which I find hard to believe, then that's another guy Bryce Huff is going to be below in the pecking order. I just have to sell him because I just don't think he's going to live up to the hype. How could he possibly? I think he's destined for another one of these years and inevitably leaving in free agency next year, which kills me.
Yeah, so I think I agree because it's important to distinguish between you're not selling Bryce Huff, the player or the talent, you're selling his role on the current team as the roster is constructed, which I can't disagree with you too much because at the end of the day, the Jets don't think Bryce Huff is as good as I think he is. And, you know, am I allowed to know more than the coaches? Hell yeah. Why else are we doing this? Come on. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. But you're right. Will McDonald is a really good football player. And I love the draft pick. But there was part of me that just wondered, man, do you just go and get JSN and then extend Bryce Huff and have Bryce Huff be that situational undersized pass rusher? But obviously they just feel like he isn't an every down player and can't play against the run, and they feel differently about Will McDonald. But you're right. Now the only caveat to that is the edge room was incredibly healthy last year. So if there are injuries, maybe that could sneak him in there. But yeah, you think really the biggest substitution is Vinny Curry is out and Will McDonald is in. And obviously Will McDonald is going to be competing more for Bryce Huff's style snaps than Vinny Curry was. So you could even see a snap reduction from last year for Huff, but I still think rep for rep, he's going to be an absolute beast. I don't know. I don't know how many reps there's going to be. So I understand why he's on your list.
Okay. And now you get back-to-back picks here. Back to you.
Okay. I am selling Ashton Davis because
come on. He's making the roster. You know it. You know he is.
Death taxes, right? And Ashton Davis on the 53. Well, the thing is, Paul, the Jets are a football team and he struggles to play football. That's the biggest issue.
Is that a prerequisite?
Yeah, other than that, he checks a lot of boxes, but it was a RAS score, dart throw, draft pick, take a guy with track speed in the 3rd round, and it just hasn't quite worked out. Now, the main reason is, like, if he's your 4 safety, is it that big of a deal? No. I think the one time they asked him to do something last year, he did make the interception against Cleveland. So, and I don't know. We didn't really see him a lot last year. So maybe he got better between year 2 and year 3, and we just didn't see him on the field. That's entirely possible. But I'm looking at his cap hit of $3 million, and I just think, all right, they could theoretically sign like a veteran. Adrian Amos got less guaranteed money than Ashton Davis is set to make right now. So
that's crazy.
Whether it's a guy like John Johnson or giving it to a UDFA like Trey Dean or just Muddy Waters because he's in the great name Hall of Fame, I just think I think the scholarship is up on guys like Mims and Ashton Davis.
I am just going to say it right now as we do this show on July 5th. So we're like 2 weeks ish from training it. We have the first practice on the 22nd, but they report before that. I'm just saying it because it's almost like the denial with the Bryce Huff thing. Like fans can try to tell themselves, and hopefully we are right. I don't think we're going to be that. Oh man, they're definitely going to play him this time. Like there's no way he makes a roster. Like look at the history. They love him. He's a special teams ace, and again, 1-for-1 plays the one defensive snap against the Browns, gets a pick. They're like, oh, well, if he plays all the snaps, he will have 347 interception. The math and the science that is involved. So again, I just think they love him. Well, I don't think. I know they love him, and they love the special teams. And as the fourth safety versus UDFA guys, maybe there is this pipeline. Tony Adams was UDFA. Is Trey Dean the next UDFA? Like that, they keep churning these guys in, and that's where they get it. I just think they are in love with the guy. They're in love with what he brings. And I think he's destined for the roster. So you can have him on the sell. Any Jets fan out there, as I see there's a few that are not Ashton Davis fans in the comment section. But again, I think he's going to be on the roster. I don't know.
Yeah, you're probably right. One of them will be Mims or Davis, probably. I think Mims has so much more competition because the amount of bodies at wide receiver that they have in the UDFAs. But with Ashton Davis, it's really just trading. Or, well, the other thing is if they consider Jarek Bernard Converse as safety, I think that would do it. I think they would probably keep him, too. You know? Okay,
and you got another pick here. Go ahead.
Okay, I am selling, and again, this is relative to expectations, so I'm not saying this guy is complete trash. I am selling to some extent Allen Lazard. I think that, and this is not when the Jets signed Allen Lazard, I looked at the contract and I was like, do I need to get my NFL Plus login checked? I'm not watching the same games, right? Because Allen Lazard's a dog. Allen Lazard is a great blocker. But I think a lot of Jet fans he's a good number 2. Well, he was a good number. He was a number 6 or 7 passing option when the Packers had a good offense. He was behind Devontae Adams, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Robert Tonyan, Aaron Jones, Randall Cobb to some extent in the pecking order. A guy who is basically scratching like 400 yards a game and being a really good blocker. Every NFL wide receiver room could use a dude like that. But last year he was force-fed a ridiculous target share in the most beleaguered pass-catching group in the NFL, and it really inflated his stats. Like, he's not getting 100 targets with the Jets. So he makes us better. I'm glad he's here. I think the contract was a little rich. It's not the end of the world because he brings elite blocking and he's buddies with our coordinator and our quarterback and all that stuff. But I just don't think that Aaron Rodgers is a quote, or that Allen Lazard is a quote-unquote wide receiver too. And I think that actually, Corey Davis is probably the second best wide receiver skill set on this team. I didn't put him on my buy list just because I question his availability. So just relative to expectations, and I think the money, I'm selling Allen Lazard a little bit.
So, okay, you say that the $11 million per year is too rich. Again, 4-year, $44 million deal, but $22 million guaranteed. So it's kind of a 2-year, $22 million deal. If that's too rich, what do you think is the appropriate value, Mr. Buffalo Jet fan capologist? Where would you have put the money if you were running the ship?
Well, you could get the same exact wide receiver production from somebody like, I don't know, Darius Slayton, who I think is making $2 million.
Wow.
He got you 700 yards of Daniel Jones last year and the same amount of drops that Allen Lazard gave you. So is Allen Lazard's blocking worth $9 million more a year than Darius Slayton? I don't think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to say that in the context of wide receiver land, so Juju Smith-Schuster was also at that $11 million per year eval. Jacoby Myers was at that $11 million per year eval. So again, in the crazy
those guys are better than Allen Lazard.
Oh wow! This is where we trade.
Guys, we have to be able to say true things. We got to be able to say true things about our football team. It's okay. We're still contenders to win our division. Those guys are better at wide receivers than Allen Lazard.
Wow, I'm not sure I'd go there. I'm not sure I'd go there for those guys. But I think in the conversation of this, Tyreek Hill is at the top of the wide receiver market at $30 million a year. Lazard's at 11. I'm like,
it's not Tremaine Johnson
I don't
contract.
think it's atrocious.
It's not crazy. I think he's a $6 million player making $11 million. I was wrong about Darius Slayton. He's making $4 million. So I think that would have been
total disrespect.
His blocking is worth $2 more million. I would have been fine giving Allen Lazard $6.5 million a year. Like Mecole Hardman. If the Jets gave Mecole Hardman $44 million, I'd be singing a different tune, right?
Well, sure. Yeah.
He got $4 million.
Yeah, which is fair.
Yeah.
And I also think in general in free agency, players are just going to get overpaid. That's the nature of the beast. And also, you would have thought that if what happened. So, according to Albert Breer, Lazard's agent reached out to the Jets at the first moment of legal tampering period saying, hey, I heard you may be getting some guy named Aaron Rodgers, yet we want in. You would think since they initiated the contact to the Jets, that maybe it would have even been a smaller deal. Again, I get it. These guys are looking for their money. It's his first money since the undrafted free agency. So this is first real money of his NFL career. But interesting that they reached out to the Jets, according to Albert Breer, and it still was $44 million. I don't think the $44 million is that crazy, but still, to your point, that it was even that much. You think that they could have maybe even gotten a discount to make the Rodgers thing happen. That's kind of fascinating too.
You know what's going to happen on the first game? Ashton Davis is going to get an interception, and then Alan Lazard is going to catch like a 50-yard touchdown pass.
And I'm going to go tweet clip Buffalo. Let's see if that's happening as well. All right, this is back to me. All right, this is okay. If you thought maybe I may get some heat for the Lazard thing, I understand what's about to happen.
Oh boy.
I feel bad about this, but Breece Hall, I am selling. I'm selling
my
Breece
soul.
Hall here. Yeah, here's the thing, folks. I have to say it again. You said it. You said earlier. We have to say the true things. As a
I don't
guy,
like true things that make me feel the emotional pain.
Yeah, you're right. No, I push.
Take it back. Lie to me.
I push back on all those things. As a guy who is sitting here with a robotic leg in a radio studio where you can't see it on camera. There are crutches in this corner over here, people. Okay. It's hard to believe. Freaking Buffalo did an amazing video breakdown. If you guys have not checked it out, please do it on the big ACL research history. He put so much work into it in terms of the amount of running backs, the time, and everything. And he went into all the numbers and broke it down. And you guys could go watch that video yourself to get the full scope of it. It's just hard for me to believe that Jets people say, these are some fans' comments on my YouTube, Twitter, and a couple other places I've seen it. The Jets are quote unquote loaded at running back. They are overflowing at running back. Paul, you're an idiot for suggesting the Kareem Hunt, Zeke's, Fournette's, Cooks, and all these other guys of the world. Dude, we're stacked at running back. I have no idea what you're talking about. Totally off base. I feel like this can wake some people up. With me putting Breece Hall in this cellar, they're like, whoa, what the hell is Paul smoking over there? I'm at work, people. I'm smoking absolutely nothing. And by the way, when I'm off work, I'm also saying nothing. My cumulus overlords that may be hanging above in the room. That, like, the fact of the matter is, I don't think Breece Hall's going to be ready for week one. And even if he is ready for week one, the Jets would be ridiculously dumb to force him out on the field. I don't even know if I want to see Breece Hall for 5 or 10 reps. I just want to see Breece Hall healthy and work him a different way. I don't need, if you want to put him on PUP to start the season because you are thinking playoffs, you're thinking long-term, then by God, do it. Be healthy for the long term. I don't, as much as I'd love to see Breece Hall and Buffalo and all the people are going to be there week one for Monday Night Football, and you want to see Breece Hall break a 70-yarder and then you're going to throw this clip back in my face. I just feel like you just need to be careful with Breece Hall and all these people that are drafting him in the top 15 of their fantasy drafts. I just feel like you're just being too aggressive. You're forcing too much on him, and I think it's going to take time for Breece Hall to be Breece Hall, even if he's going to be Breece Hall in his first season back since a torn ACL. So it's an uncomfortable placement on the list. People hate me. The torches and pitchforks and all that stuff are coming out, but it's the God-honest truth.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more optimistic than you that he'll be available week one, but your point of the Jets could definitely fortify the running back room with another signing is it's amazing to me that the consensus among Jet fans isn't Dalvin Cook or Kareem Hunt for the right price is a no-brainer. It's amazing to me that there's it's running back. It's $4 million. Who cares? Worst case scenario, Breece Hall comes back like Adrian Peterson and, you spent $4 million that you didn't have to. And then you could trade Dalvin Cook at the trade deadline if you really want to, if he's burning a hole in your pocket. So that point I completely agree with, but I am a little bit more optimistic on Breece. I think, I did when I ran the whole numbers, I basically took his, what he was on pace to do in 2022. And then I prorated it to typically how running backs respond in their second year. And that came out to maybe looking like around 900 yards rushing, like on 4.5 yards per attempt. But speaking of Dalvin Cook, he's a pretty good example because it's pretty recent and he's an athletic stud just like Breece. And in 2017, his rookie year, he tore his ACL on October 1st. So right around the time, actually a little bit before Breece did. And he was not available for the first 5 games.
Wow.
And then even when he did come back and play, so Dalvin Cook's rookie year, 88 yards a game he was averaging. Then he tears his ACL. Next year, misses the first 5 games, 56 yards per game. So, and then
That's
the next year,
dramatic.
the next year after that, boom, right back to almost 100%. So, yeah,
And
like
he got
that,
hurt earlier, and that's important that you
Right.
mentioned that. He got hurt earlier in his own season than Brees Hall did, and he still missed the first 5 games. Now, there's all kinds of, circumstances. If
Every
the Vikings
injury is
felt
different.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
The Viking injuries are different, and if the Vikings felt like they had running backs they could afford the luxury, that's also a factor. But still, I think that's important to know.
I think they're gonna see how he looks in camp, and then kind of make a decision from there.
Yeah. Again, I think you're right that he can be back, and people are asking which stream should I join since we're doing double stream. Just open up 2 tabs, baby, and then put them both on the screen at the same time, and just have volume full up on both. And
Have one
just do that.
headphone in one, and then the other
Yeah.
headphone in the other.
100%. Which, by the way, guys, a quick detour on this conversation. We are going to be so we've used to say, but before StreamYard changed their technology, we've been doing streams on every other channel each week. I just think it's better to have it on both channels, so Buffalo's fans can see this. I saw Buffalo got a new member to the Green Stampede earlier.
Oh, I missed that.
I almost gave a shout out to Buffalo's new member on my own channel. But hey, you know what? Whatever, man. I love it. So yeah, so it's amazing. But we want to do it on both of our channels to maximize viewership for everyone, no matter where you watch. So it's cool. Another member of the Green Stampede. I don't know if you have like some of the other YouTube have like some horn. This person just joined. I don't know if you have a sound effect, but feel free to scream it to the heavens if you'd like. That's beautiful. Yeah, Kuka has it on one screen. Beautiful. Good work.
Actually, for
Good
me,
work.
every time somebody joins, Josh Allen throws another interception. So
see, there you go. Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
That's great work. So appreciate that. Another part of that fan club. So just watch both, guys. Just support both. We appreciate it. But back to Brees Hall there for a second. I think he is going to be ready, like ready, quote unquote, for week 1, based on the Robert Saleh comments. And the comment was simply this: was that, hey, and I keep bringing this back up, we're going to be cautious with Brees Hall in training camp, but we don't have to be. And that one to me is a way, and no one asked him that specific question. He went out of his way to volunteer that information. That is interesting to me. Obviously, we'll see. Von Miller also said, I hope to be ready by week 1, but at worst case, I'll be there by week 6. So people say kind of crazy, stupid stuff all the time. So I don't really know on that one. But anywho, let's go to my next pick here. Get back to the fantasy draft here. And I'm going to go Zach Kuntz. Now, this is one that I think Jet fans are shoving down people's throats, but you even said it earlier with the Jeremy Ruckert purchase. Like, where is he going to play? And I've heard some people argue, and I'm curious your thoughts here, Buffalo, on it, that they believe that the Jets are going to keep Zach Kuntz on the team, and he's going to be this basketball mano-y-mano guy that you're going to utilize in the red zone, one-on-one, throw him out there like a Megatron, and just throw kind of jump balls to him, and that will be a legitimate part of the red zone package of the offense this year. I just feel like people are drooling over the spider graph. They're drooling over the spider chart. They're drooling over all that stuff of Zach Kuntz and saying, ha, 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 the Jets saw something that no one else saw. That's why he went in the 7th round. And I'm just saying, guys, it'll be fun in your Madden rosters when you have the Jets, but he's not going to have that role, and I don't think he's going to make the team, quite frankly. So I'm just chilling down all that hubbub, and I'm going to squarely put him on the practice squad if he clears it, which there's a strong chance he will because of the rawness that is around him. So I just simply have to sell Zach Kuntz, and I'm sorry to all the crazy Jet fans that go wild. He is the Sharon Peak of tight ends that people are losing their crap about.
That is a good call. I'll meet you in the middle on Kuntz because number one, if you watch him, like the athleticism does show up and it's exciting. And I love the pick. Anytime it's the 7th round, if you can take the most athletic position player at a position where you haven't had a dynamic difference maker since Mickey before you and I were born, then
right, exactly.
You do it. So I love the pick. I love that dart throw in the 7th round. But I don't know of any single thing he can really do to contribute to a football team. He can't block at all, so that's not out of the question. And I understand it's like, oh, we're going to do a big slot stuff and red zone. Okay, the idea that we're going to throw a pass to Zach Kuntz in the red zone over targeting Garrett Wilson or Corey Davis or Alan Lazard or Mecole Hardman or Brees Hall or Tyler Conklin or CJ Uzomah or Jeremy Rucker or Michael Carter. Like there's 10 guys I can name that, you would prioritize as a weapon before Zach Kuntz. But I do think he makes the team. I just think it's better roster management to just stow away that guy. You could probably sneak either him or Kenny Yeboah on the practice squad realistically, but I'd prefer to just let's keep the alien on the team and get him on special teams. And that 3 to 5% chance that he hits and he's Jimmy freaking Graham, whatever, that's worth more to me than like Kenny Yeboah's special teams. I think you can coach a 10.0 RAS score up to be a decent special teamer. So I think he makes the team as the fourth tight end. But yeah, I don't think you see him dress on game days. Like he kind of gets the Rucker treatment from last year.
Yeah, I do think this is a common Jets thing where, again, we're going to fall in love with, and how could you not? If you go to Jets training camp, one of the available fan practices, and see Kuntz just catching passes.
He's going to be killing it. He's going to be mugging those third stringers, and those
my God,
those Uber drivers are going to get. He's going to eat.
I'm looking forward to the preseason game where he catches like 2 or 3 touchdowns from Tim Boyle, and we're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And then like we have these debates, which we talked about a few weeks ago, of like, people, watch out. You know what's going to be coming here. We're going to have, and just as we see here, I think this one's on yours, but nonetheless, the super chat coming in from DFF1234. Is Trev still here? He is still here, but I'll use him as the example of like, we can't put Chris Streveler on the practice squad. He's going to get stolen, guaranteed. There's no way. And we do these video debates about it. Same thing about Kuntz. If he was to be cut, people would be like, oh, you can't do that.
Bam Knight too. Remember, he wasn't going to.
Yeah, exactly. So I think sometimes we overrate it. But again, hopefully, Kuntz is the player that you believe he is, and he's this alien that you can kind of develop. It's a dart throw. What do you have to lose? Low cost and whatnot, but interesting nonetheless. All right, you finish us off with your final 2 picks. I'll have the final pick, the overall draft here. 2 sells. What do you got?
Okay, I'm selling Hamza Nasruddin. I think that his time is up on the roster. I think that right now the linebackers would be, well, if they re-sign Quan, he's definitely done. But right now it's CJ, Quincy, and then Sherwood. And I think the fourth linebacker spot, I think Zaire Barnes, he's a draft pick. They'll probably give him the nod. And I've watched a bit of him, and he reminded me a little bit of a similar game to Quincy Williams, which that comes with all of the good and all of the bad of Quincy Williams. So I think that's just where they're going to go. And Hamza, if he couldn't crack out a role with the lack of depth that's been on the Jets linebacker room in recent years, I think he's just a practice squad level player, and that's probably where they'll keep him. Practice squad kind of guy, Marcel Harris kind of guy, just fringe. If there were a team that kept 5 linebackers and ran more 3 linebacker sets, maybe he can make the team. But with only being 4 linebackers, I think Hamza probably goes to the practice squad shadow realm permanently, and Zaire Barnes is in there as well. Also a guy like Trey Dean, who I know he's not big enough to ever do it. He was like 15 pounds lighter than Sherwood, but Trey Dean does actually remind me of how Jamie Sherwood played linebacker in college. The dude's built like out of granite and hits like a Mack truck. And I think he could do some of that quasi, you're a nickel, you're a safety, you're a Sam kind of role if he does make the team. So I think that's another player. Obviously Chuck Clark would have done that if he was healthy. So I just don't see it for Hamza. I don't really see a role for him on the team.
Yeah, I don't either. A fun athletic piece of clay. I remember Connor Rodgers talking about him because he had him, I can't remember where it was, but super relatively high in his draft board to where the Jets got him. It was like 50 or 100 slots apart, if I remember correctly. And he just lost it. Like, wow, look at this athletic piece of clay that fell down to the Jets. This is really cool, but it really hasn't hit. And again, to your point, if it didn't hit when the times were lowest, when the tide was low, how is it possibly going to hit with the tide slightly higher in terms of trying to make that roster? What's your final pick here?
All right, my final sell is Sauce Gardner. No, I'm just kidding. My final sell.
Good one.
All right, I have a couple of names. Who do I want? Who has the least amount of truthers? That's going to get me in the least trouble here.
Yeah, that's probably for the best.
Here we go. Okay, I'm going to sell. I'm going to sell CJ Uzomah because I bought Jeremy Rucker.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense.
I think that they're just going to flip flop a little bit in roles. And I think that CJ, is at the end of the world if he's a slightly overpaid tight end 3 who's great for the locker room and the vibes. Like that's not a huge deal. I just think you would hope Jeremy Rucker is better than CJ Uzomah. I think we could all agree with that. He's a younger player. He's on a rookie contract. We hope he has a higher ceiling. I think CJ his blocking is good. He's got some good yak ability. He had one good receiving season in Cincinnati, and I think that's the one that got him paid, to be fair enough. But for the most part, he was a player who got 300-ish yards, 200 yards, and was relied upon as a blocker. And I hope that Jeremy Ruckert can be better than that. And I really like the idea of Conklin, Conklin should have been on my. Wait, was he not on your sell list either? Your best friend, Tyler Conklin? Was it because of trying to be objective, conflict of interest?
Yeah, there? I will say, if I had an honorable mention, I have it on my list.
Yeah, me too, man.
As a buy, I had Tyler Conklin as a buy on.
Or as your buy, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Buy for me too, Tyler Conklin. I think that he was open a lot, and he doesn't have the contested catch ability and the catch radius to bail out
just
inaccurate
throws.
To
be honest, I thought he was going to be much better in contested catch situations coming in.
Yeah, it wasn't really his game in Minnesota either. He's a little bit on the smaller side for a tight end, but he's a really good route runner, and he separates well, and he's got good hands. The drops were an aberration in the beginning of the year. The drops and fumbles were an aberration. So, and he was 10th among all tight ends in catches last year. So enter Aaron Rodgers. Can he be 6th or 7th in the NFL among tight ends and catches? So that'd be a hard buy for me. I'm just a lot higher on Conklin and Ruckert. So I think Uzomah for me is just a little bit of an odd man out in the tight end room.
Yeah, that's what I'm so excited about personally for Conklin. I told Conklin this. We did an interview, I think it was last week, and I said, what does this mean when I say this? You had the most productive Jets season in over 10 years. The last guy was Dustin Keller. And he was just kind of like, cool, but I've got higher aspirations. So he was talking about some of his goals. Obviously, with Aaron Rodgers, that should help. But that's kind of crazy. Last year, and a year that I don't think a lot of people, if we say, hey, 22 season, what did you think for the Jets? I don't think a lot of people would go, wow, the Tyler Conklin historic season. I don't think a lot of people would say that. And which is interesting because he had the fumbles early on. He had some of the catch issues. And now at the end of the year, he had this wildly productive year. Now, half of that is the Jets had no real production over the last 10 years. So anyone who was somewhat competent would have done what he did. But it's kind of interesting now heading into this year where it's arrow seemingly pointing in the right direction. I think he is an easy buy. If you're looking for a guy you're just buying and you feel really good about the purchase, I think Conklin is certainly that.
Yeah, there's good value on Conk. Now, I will say that the flip side of that is he didn't really see a lot of meaningful catches last year. So I'm not predicting that he's going to have 1,000-yard season, but I think he'll be more impactful because a lot of his yards came on 8-yard stick routes from Joe Flacco when we were down by 2 touchdowns. But my point still stands that when you rewatch the games, he is open quite a bit. And he does possess the best receiving skill set of any tight end we've had since Dustin Keller. For sure. It's crazy. And he's a better blocker than Dustin Keller. Tight end or Tyler Conklin. And look, I like Tyler Conklin, but this is pretty pathetic. Tyler Conklin might possess the most complete tight end skill set of any Jets tight end since Mickey Schuler. It's crazy. That's how it is. I know we've had quarterback and our coaches and all that, but that is shocking in the modern era that we haven't had a real difference maker at that position. I mean, Anthony Becht was fun,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Bubba Frank season, Chris Herndon.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Jeff Cumberland.
Yeah, Jeff Cumberland. That's another one. Another good one. Yeah. And I will say this. I can't remember the game. You'll remember this, I'm sure, Buffalo. The Tyler Conklin catch I remember is the nasty throw from Zach. I think it was the Patriots game in the left corner of the end zone. Oh my God. The route, the throw. I was just like, whoo.
Yeah, that out route. And Zach, too, it hurts, man. I wish Zach would just always suck. It'd be easier.
Yeah,
because sometimes you see the magic out of that right arm and you're like, good Lord.
Unbelievable. I mean, again, that one I still drool over. And quite frankly, why I even had on my list, I didn't know it was going to be, I think I have a lot of players on the buy and sell list.
Let's do one more buy and one more sell each.
Yeah. We'll do that. One more. I'll do the sell first. And you joked about it. I'm not joking. Okay. Sauce Gardner. I'm putting it as a sell.
Oh my God.
I'm
reporting this stream. I'm reporting it.
Please do. This won't be up for long, so people take pictures. It'll last longer. Can Sauce be that good again?
Yeah.
Or better, quite frankly. I mean, first team All-Pro, Pro Bowl, shutting people down, lost in the sauce. It all sounds great. It all sounds groovy, and we all want to sell ourselves on the fact that he was just ranked. Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks, they do an around Move the Sticks podcast. The number one corner. They did a fantasy draft picking the best corners in football heading into the year. Sauce Gardner was the unanimous number one pick in a fantasy draft, similar to this of drafting guys. They picked Sauce Gardner, and they said, and I think Daniel Jeremiah said, quote unquote, and there's not much debate about it. And I'm like, whoa. I mean, that's just, I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying, like, wow, that players, people, notable NFL football people said, obviously it's Sauce. And I'm not saying it's wrong. It's just, wow, that ceiling, that bar is set incredibly high. He is now going to be targeted, not like, I don't know, in literal targets, but like he's going to be, we got to know where Sauce is. I just find it interesting. I wonder if he can live up to the hype again. He's all the way at the bottom of this made-up fantasy draft we did, so it's not like I am the most concerned about him. He's on the list of a guy that, you know what? Can he do that? And if he can, I will take full credit because I put this as bulletin board material for him. So I will take full credit if he does have an amazing sophomore season because it'll be all my fault. But you kind of joked about it, but I was like, I'm putting him at 10. So there we are.
Yeah, I understand the point of it. Almost feels like if you're the best, you can only go but down. So I understand.
Right. Yeah. How do you stay on top of the mountain?
I just think his floor is still a top 5 corner in the NFL. So even if he goes from 1 to 5, because I just don't know of what, and I understand we played backup quarterbacks, but when you look at there's no separation, and I don't see a weakness in his game that can be exploited. If they start calling a little bit when he's getting a little handsy or whatever, maybe, or just by sheer luck and randomness, I actually think DJ Reed is more likely to have a slight regression than Sauce, just because.
Okay.
And again, like if Sauce and DJ Reed were like the 1st and 8th best corners in the NFL last year, maybe they become the 3rd and 15th. They're still one of the best tandems in the NFL, but DJ Reed, whenever it's kind of like Laken Tomlinson, he had the worst year of his career. So you're anticipating a bounce back. Well, DJ Reed had the best year of his career, so a slight regression might happen a little bit, nothing crazy. But yeah, dude, I just think Sauce is. I don't see an area of his game that can be exploited, and I think that even if he regresses a little bit, the floor for me is Sauce is still a top 5 corner in the NFL.
All right, real quick, a good reminder, super chat here for Buffalo's channel. Click the like button. Feel free, guys, to do so. I know a lot of you guys are saying, whoa, early show. I set up the stream last night. There will be a couple of these throughout the summer as we get to the season where we'll have afternoon live streams. So keep an eye out on both of our channels. I normally set up the live stream, so it's up for at least 12 hours and change plus to jump in. So let's quickly go through this, and then we'll wrap up. You want to do one more buy and one more sell? We'll just randomly do it. Go ahead. You could go either buy or sell first, whoever your extra pick is.
I will buy Al Woods. I love me some Al Woods. I think that he is bringing something to this Jets defense that hasn't been here since Robert Saleh has been here. And I understand that their philosophy is you want to be relentless with 4 rushers on a down in, down out basis. So you can't really afford to have one guy out there who doesn't rush the passer. But, sometimes it's 3rd and 2 and you need a 350 pounder to go in there and eat 2 gaps. And when you watch Al Woods play, he is hell. He is absolute hell.
What is he? Is he Sione Pua? Is he Chris Jenkins? Is he Snack Harrison? Is he something else?
He's Diet Snacks Harrison, because Snacks Harrison was like the single best run defender in football for 3 years. He's not that anymore, but I think stylistically he compares similarly to Snacks, and he doesn't penetrate. You can't move him. He's just there, and you can put 3. You're just not moving him. So when teams ran that in, that power, and they're blowing, Sheldon Rankins off the ball and getting 8 yards at a time, that's just not happening on early downs with Al Woods in there. And the Jets defense didn't have a lot of vulnerabilities. I think their linebackers and safeties in coverage, and then the run game a little bit. And Al Woods goes a long way to shore that up. And I'm going to sell Max Mitchell. I'm selling Max Mitchell. And not that he's a bust or anything. He's a 4th round pick. I thought, hey, if you're a 4th round pick and you're thrown in there, from the Sun Belt Conference with no notice, and you're starting week 1 when you probably should have had a redshirt year, and I'm going into that Baltimore Ravens game, I'm expecting like Max Mitchell to be the reason we're losing, and that was far from the case. He wasn't even the worst offensive lineman in that game. So I think he's already checked off that he could be a decent backup, which at a premium position is worth the 4th round pick. But I just think that, there's talk of, Max Mitchell could be starting over Mekhi Becton. Yeah, Mekhi Becton has more talent in his pinky than Max Mitchell does in his whole body. Respectfully, the gap is enormous. And if you look at some of the nerd stats, Max Mitchell was hemorrhaging pressures and sacks at an egregious clip last year. Just think the play strength wasn't quite up to snuff, which is why they wanted to probably sit him for a year so they can get him in an NFL weight room and all that. But he was like 297 at 6'6" when he was drafted. So I'm just I just think that if he's starting, then our offensive line it's not great if he's starting. And I think that some people maybe disagree with that.
Hawk, low carb snacks, hilarious. Thank you for that one. That one is a great nickname. I love that. And also, Charlie is now 3 for 3. He had you selling Max Mitchell, C.J. Uzomah, and Alan Lazard. So it was a late ad with the extra round.
I gotta keep up in the chat here.
I'm gonna give it boing, Charlie.
Charlie's like my burner account. I'm just
apparently
me typing in there on the side. That's funny.
Which I will give apparently you full credit for your own pick. So very nice, Charlie. Got to give a shout out for your 3-on-3 on guesses. My real quick on the extras here. I know I said Tyler Conklin was like 6 on the list. I'm pushing him a little bit lower. Mekhi Becton, and I don't know if you've seen it yet, Buffalo, but make sure you check it out on the New York Jets website and their Jets app. They don't have it on their YouTube page yet, but they've done like these little mini 4 or 5 minute interviews with players on the sideline. Again, remember they did a bulk of these interviews maybe a month or two ago, and then they're releasing them sporadically. And Mekhi Becton was so honest, so vulnerable. He talked about this dark demons he was facing as he was injured and why he thinks 2023 he's going to be going hella crazy. And think about this. At one point during the 2021 season, according to Rich Cimini, Mekhi Becton ballooned to 400 pounds. At his last check-in that we're aware of, and it's probably even lower than this, Mekhi Becton stepped on the scale at 342. 60 pounds of difference for Mekhi Becton. And he looks like it if you see pictures of him. And we'll see training camp here in 2.5 weeks. 340 pounds. That's 20 pounds less than his best weight. Your lipstick on a pig when you go to the NFL Combine. Hey, here's my best self. He was 365. He is over 20 pounds less. 20 pounds fewer than that from the Combine now. That to me is incredible. That's going to be great for his knees, the surgically repaired knees, a lot less weight on him, and hopefully, perhaps, the best Mekhi Becton that we've ever seen. And that would be great news for the Jets in a highly motivated year of a contract year. I have to buy Mekhi Becton off of this thing that was just released earlier today. Again, we're recording this live on July 5th. That interview just really helped even add a little bit more juice to me that I've already thought about for Mekhi this offseason.
Yeah, Becton I couldn't put him on either list because it's just a matter of his health. So all these other players, I'm giving like takes on their skill set, but I think with Mekhi Becton, the talent is pretty undeniable. And whether or not his knee can hold up for a 17-game season is just kind of up in the air. I'll tell you what, it's going to have a lot better chance at 340 pounds than it did at 400 pounds. And all the other stuff, I saw Mekhi Becton was getting, some flack on Twitter for that. And I've criticized Becton in the past before, but at this point, okay, you just got to look at what happens this season and then go from there. You kind of have to just we didn't win a lot of games the last 2 years anyway. So are we really that upset the 2021 season? But like now starts meaningful football. So if Mekhi Becton can ball out and he only did it for a contract year, okay, worry about that in contract negotiation. We're trying to win a Super Bowl this year, and your chances of doing that are exponentially higher if Mekhi Becton is blocking for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, we'll do a little bit more on this for a separate video on the channel. Yeah. But to your point, Mekhi Becton, so I've been tweeting out a bunch of clips from that interview. And one of the ones was Mekhi Becton explaining like, whoa, what happened? Like, why are you physically transforming now? What happened over the last couple of years? And he said he surrounded himself with the wrong people. And he said he replaced his agent this offseason. He replaced his trainer. He replaced all kinds of things. And he said he wanted to have this physical transformation earlier, but it sounds like, at least if you're reading the tea leaves, he got bad advice where the people must have been telling him to stay bulked up, stay massive, you're big ticket, you're Mekhi Becton. And then he listened to the people that were in his inner circle. And that's why it's so important. Who's inside your inner circle? He kicks those people out and says, no, I need to do something else. I'm wiping the slate clean. He said he, quote unquote, got a new everything, new dietitian, knew all this stuff, and now he's lost all this weight. So a lot of people have been dunking on him. Oh, man, it took you this long to learn it, you big dummy. Like, Jesus, people. I mean, for Pete's sake, to me, better late than
July,
never.
People. It's
and
July.
that's also
Have
true.
a hot
It's
dog.
July. Yeah, for Pete's sake. It's uncomfortable.
Beer. It's going to be okay.
Here's the last sell. I know this is sexy. I've mentioned sauces and all this other. Nick Bodden. I'm going to sell old Nick Bodden. It's time to get rid of Nick Bodden and make Jeremy Ruckert that crazy H-back. Tyler Conklin mentioned it during our interview. And to make that possible without just kind of wasting a roster spot randomly on Nick Bodden, I'm moving Nick Bond. I'm selling him. I'm moving on. And it's not even a guarantee. If you look at Nathaniel Hackett's history, sometimes he has a fullback like he had in Denver, but it's not a guarantee. So to have a guy that would be multifaceted, that give you a little bit more roster flexibility elsewhere. Think about the quarterback rule. The Jets are going to have to keep 3 quarterbacks on the 53. So that's one other spot you can't take away. And you start playing the roster chess game of, okay, 3 here, 1 less here, this here, this here. I think you could save one by ditching Bodden and then making Ruckert in that role. He's a nasty blocker. I love that Mike LaFleur clip from One Jets Drive of Ruckert's blocking at Ohio State, swinging on the backside. It's nasty. It revs your engine, baby, if you see that kind of stuff. So I got to put Nick Bodden on the cell. I know that one will catch me a lot of flack, I'm sure. But Nick,
are there Nick Bodden truthers?
There has to be. There's truthers for everybody. I think there's truthers for everybody.
I agree. I like Nick Bodden, but it's tough to do a 53-man roster prediction and fit a Nick Bodden on the
right.
53.
That's a good
you're gonna
way
have
to
to
put
cut. Yeah, you're gonna have to cut somebody you're just not gonna want to cut to bring in a fullback, and that's the way the NFL is going. You're finding players who can play fullback who aren't exclusively fullbacks. The Rams use Ben Skoranek, who's a 230-pound wide receiver. He's one of the best fullbacks technically, in the NFL, which is pretty crazy. So yeah, I think Ruckert will be used in kind of that H-back role. Bodden's a good fullback, and Hackett kept a fullback in Denver. Our boys from Tennessee, they liked themselves some 2-back sets with Derrick Henry. But I think if you can squeeze that out of a player who can Jeremy Ruckert be your fullback and your tight end, 3 to start the season, that's probably the way that they'll go. I agree with that.
All right, next week, guys, is the minor league all-star break. One of the reasons why we're doing this funky schedule is I'm back to doing some work at the radio station. So next week can either be an afternoon or night game. We'll see, or night show with Buffalo. All the rest of them through the month of July will be afternoon live stream. So mark your calendars accordingly for both of our channels. Next week, we'll see it's up in the air, but all the other ones will be afternoon streams. So Buffalo, fun exercise here. Went even longer than I thought. And thanks for all the questions, everybody who was joining in. But a good, fun exercise before we get to training camp and all the news bits that we'll be covering on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, good stuff, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see everybody next Wednesday.
There he is. See, that is Buffalo. I am Boy Green. We'll see you guys next time. Take care.